engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Good evening. Welcome. It's Erick Erickson here. News 95.5 AM 750 WSB. The phone number, I guess it would help if I got into the call screening program, huh? 404-872-0750 1-800 WSB Talk. Folks, we got to get to the big news. Andrew McCabe out at the FBI. Now, to be clear, he is not out. He's essentially taking a long vacation. He will stick around for a couple of more months so that he can get his full pension, but otherwise is standing down on a daily basis. Multiple media outlets are reporting that Christopher Wray, the current FBI director, pressured him into doing so after the withering criticisms of the president towards Andrew McCabe. Now, we need to set this up, and first of all, we should say a couple of things at the outset. A lot of liberals are claiming conspiracy. They're adding this to the pile of things that they claim the president obstructed justice about. There's no evidence of that. The president did bully and badger McCabe. According to leaks coming to NBC News today, he badgered McCabe about his wife and his wife's campaign in Virginia, getting money from a super PAC that was friendly with the Clintons, affiliated with them. She was supported by Terry McAuliffe. She's a Democrat. Andrew McCabe, we now know, voted in the Republican primary in 2016. He did not vote at all in the presidential race in November of 2016. Nonetheless, liberals, of course, are crying foul. I got to say this. There are a lot of people who want to claim conspiracy, collusion, and obstruction for Donald Trump being Donald Trump. Yes, did Donald Trump, based on these leaks, bully, badger, harass Andrew McCabe about his wife, about maybe how he voted, who he supported, and all these things? Okay, he does that to everybody. I mean, I think that's part of the thing that's missing in the conversation about the president and this entire situation is he's not treating the FBI differently from anyone else, and maybe he should. There's an argument he should. But he's treating them just like everyone else. It's not like he singled out James Comey or Andrew McCabe for bad treatment compared to others. He's treating them like everybody else. I mean, he treats everybody this way. Now, you can say that's no defense, and that's fair. Maybe he shouldn't be treating people like this, but let's not look at it and say, well, he was intentionally, willfully trying to obstruct justice and engage in collusion or whatever you want to call it, because he does this with every single person. And I think if the president's behavior deviated from the norm in this circumstance, as opposed to every circumstance, then we could say something. But there doesn't seem to me to be a there with this, just given the way the president behaves with everyone. McCabe being out comes after lots of pressure from the White House, much criticism from the president regarding Andrew McCabe. It sounds like Christopher Wray is essentially making Andrew McCabe take one for the team, which is perfectly reasonable. If you're the FBI director, you've got to protect your institution in the same way John Roberts, however inexcusable you and I may see it, he played politics on Obamacare and split the baby, so to speak, to save it while also allowing it to be considered a tax and allow the Republicans to set up a way to undermine it through the tax code because he needed to protect the Supreme Court and claim it wasn't political. This is essentially what Christopher Wray is doing at the FBI. He's playing politics. Yes, I think we can say Christopher Wray is playing politics, but he's playing politics to protect the institutional integrity of his institution that is under a sustained attack from the people who run the government, the President of the United States and the Republicans who run the House. That's a pretty big deal, and you do have to play that way. And he's getting Andrew McCabe to step aside. Andrew McCabe, everyone is saying in all the press reports he was planning on stepping aside anyway. He's just moving up the timetable a little bit. Now, there's more in this as Republicans set to open up a memo, potentially, keeping our eye out on that. But before we get there, we need to go check traffic right now with Doug Turnbull.
Thank you, Eric. 513 of the Sky Concert, 285 west and south the Auto Loop. If you left from the Dunwoody Perimeter Center area now, it's going to take a half an hour to go from Ashford Dunwoody to where a crash cleared to the right, 285 south the Auto Loop at Cobb Park. At least I think it did. It's there at exit 19. If you're on the Inner Loop, 285 east and south, that ride's about 50 minutes, 50, between Georgia 400 and Memorial Memorial Drive, exit 41. Up over Hall County, Highway 129 is still shut down at Almenga with some kind of fire department activity here. That's halfway between 985 and 85. Highway 60, your alternate, Eric.
Thank you very much. So we're continuing to watch this. Sources have been saying that the House is going to vote this afternoon after 5 o'clock. It appears it hasn't happened yet on whether or not to release the Nunes memo and whether or not to release the Democrats' memo written in response to the Nunes memo. We haven't gotten there yet. We will see. My guess is that they do vote to release it. And a couple of things you need to keep in mind here with this memo. The president today apparently is livid with the Associate Attorney General Stephen Boyd, who authored the memo to Devin Nunes saying not to release it and pointing out that Nunes and his staff had not seen the classified information that the memo is about. And that is a key piece of information here. The Department of Justice is doubling down on this. The Department of Justice saying that there were some staff members who did review the classified information the Nunes memo purports to cover. They were not allowed to take copies of that classified information, and they did not necessarily see the accumulation of classified information. They saw some of it. Certain members of Congress, including Trey Gowdy, saw some of it. They did not see all of it. None of them saw the 50,000 additional text messages that have come forward since then. The Nunes memo is meant to reflect that classified information, which the Department of Justice is saying that most of the staff and the congressman himself did not actually review. The president's team is livid with the Department of Justice for this, and there comes word today that the president had told Jeff Sessions and several others within the Department of Justice that they needed to do a better job of protecting him, was the implication from the report. He didn't apparently actually say that, but that's how reporters took it. Sessions, it turns out, is standing with Stephen Boyd, author of the memo, telling the House Republicans they shouldn't release the memo. Christopher Wray has apparently gone to Capitol Hill and reviewed the information in the memo. I do not know yet what word has about his decision of whether or not they should release it based on the FBI's recommendation. But all of this is swirling around this afternoon in Washington. There is so much else going on as well, including, as I try not to hiccup here on radio, including the Grammys. We will have to get to the Grammys. One bit of housekeeping, though, that you need to know about. Clay Tippins is a former Navy SEAL, and he is running for governor of Georgia. He is now the fifth Republican running for governor. We've got Brian Kemp. We're going to be interviewing him in the Live Lounge on Thursday night. We've got Hunter Hill and Michael Williams on the 6th of February. We have Casey Cagle at 7 p.m. on the 8th of February, and Clay Tippins, we're going to interview him at 8 p.m. on February 8th in the Live Lounge. We'll be broadcasting it live on WSB. We'll be streaming it online. If you would like to be a member of the in-studio Live Lounge audience for Clay Tippins, text the word WSB to 345-345, and I will send you a link for this. Now, these are all starting to happen as the state legislature continues meeting, and there's a new steam building for a religious liberty amendment in the state legislature in Georgia. The governor again saying he's going to veto it, but the Baptist churches in the state look like they're about to get fired up and proceed with religious liberty. Also, my friend Wes Cantrell has released into the state house a piece of legislation on school choice. I want to explain that to you tonight, but before we get into any of that, we got to spend some time on what happened at the Grammys. People are fairly well outraged at the Grammys last night, and it's very interesting. I think we've got the tell that most members of the American media have not actually read Michael Wolff's book. Even though they've cited it, they've quoted it, they've used it against the White House, it doesn't appear that they've actually read it. Why? Because they're all really surprised about something Nikki Haley did last night regarding Michael Wolff's book. We'll get into all those details when we come back here on WSB.
Erick Erickson and Atlanta's Evening News.
Who is that guy? I love him.
The information you need and the truth you demand every night on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB. Atlanta's Evening News is sponsored by Comcast.